Artisan's Accomplice is proud to sponsor Jewelry Junkie. Artisan's Accomplice is a complete website system designed for jewelers and crafters. Create your own website with all the features you need to display and sell your products online. Try it out at artisansaccomplice.com.
Welcome back to Jewelry Junkie TV. My name is Pam Healy. I'm your host, and with me is Genevieve Martineau, the beading consultant.
Hey Pam, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you? Basically, today we're going to be talking about stitches, bead weaving. Really,
oh yes.
Yeah, bead weaving.
Excellent.
And why is it called bead weaving? Do you have any idea why it's called that?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, I know.
Basically, we're going to be taking beads.
Yes.
And some thread.
Right.
And a needle, and we're going to be sewing it all together. And so as you're going back and forth through the beads, it's like bead weaving. It's like weaving with beads.
All right, so that's basically why they call stitching bead weaving, which I don't understand, but anyway, we'll move right along. We're going to be doing peyote stitch. And I do believe that peyote stitch is a Native American stitch.
Actually, there is peyote stitch, and I'm sure that other people all over the world have been doing this for thousands of years.
Wow.
The Indians, the Native Americans are well known for it.
Correct.
But people do this stitch all over the world. There's also another name for it called gourd stitch.
Oh, gourd stitch.
So if you ever see that as a reference, I think maybe it might be called that. I don't really know the exact reason, but a lot of times you see in Native American artwork, they have beaded over the shells of
like decorative
gourds and things. So maybe it's called that. I'm not quite sure. But
okay. Yep. Well, it's an older stitch, and it's a very popular stitch, a very well-known stitch.
I think a lot of times when people talk about bead weaving,
they think of
peyote.
That's very similar to needle point. Needle point has like 300 and something stitches, I believe. And when people that don't need needle point, they usually think of the tent stitch, which is called the tent stitch, as needle point, and that's just not the entire thing either. So basically, we're going to be talking about different stitches to you.
Yep.
I believe that peyote is one of the more versatile ones.
It sure is, and as a matter of fact, we brought lots of examples of work that we can do. Mm-hmm. So this is a lot of work that Pam and I made, and actually a couple of my friends. But you can see we have we've used seed beads for different kinds of peyote. So there's some that have patterns in them. There's actually something called 2-drop peyote, where you're stitching 2 beads at a time instead of 1 bead at a time. Free-form peyote, where you just pick up whatever you feel like. This is actually a peyote stitch on either side, joined with a netting stitch in the middle. This is a peyote stitch that's been embellished on top, so it's plain on the back, and then on top of it, it is has a design. Mm-hmm. And then I have peyote. This one is peyote stitch sewn the long way to create the bracelet, so you can use the stitch in lots of different ways. This one is a little piece of peyote holding a whole bunch of strands together.
Right, wow.
This is a tubular peyote that's formed to make these funky earrings. Here, Pam made this awesome little bracelet with heart design in it. And here's another one that's embellished. You can also do wrap stones with peyote, so go around a stone to hold something in. Here's a great example of a free-form peyote. And then we also have another embellished one with a little pattern in it, another rope peyote, and then we've created these beaded beads. So lots of different things that can be done.
It can also be like a bail and hold.
Yep. And this you could use that as a ring if you wanted.
That's right.
So the cool thing about peyote is that you can do patterns. That's a very exciting thing to do. I like to do the freeform. I really like the way that looks.
Yeah.
And today what we're going to do is we are going to show how to make these little beaded beads, and I'll give you a primer on how to actually do the stitch.
Okay, so there is, so let's have a recap. On peyote, basically, there is this is what's called the flat count peyote.
Yep.
And then you have the tubular.
Yep, tubular peyote.
Which is the round peyote.
Yep.
And then basically there's the freeform.
Yep.
Which is really like a flat, or can you make a tubular freeform as well, or?
You could. I've never tried it. That's a great idea, though.
I don't know.
I hope somebody tries it out and sends us a picture.
There you go. I just wanted to recap about peyote. You know, it's funny, too, because to me it's just a very, not plain, not ordinary, but I don't think it's very complicated. To me, it reminds me of a zipper. You're basically filling in like a zipper.
Yes, that's a great way to explain it. Usually the most difficult part about it is starting it.
This is true.
Yep, and so we'll talk about how to start it.
Yes.
And we'll talk about a way to end it in terms of the bead to bead.
Right, and mostly we're going to be having a demonstration. Jenna's going to be doing that for us because it takes a while to demonstrate.
Yep. Hey, do you want to talk about our giveaway?
I think that's a great idea. And for all of you who haven't signed in yet, it's at jewelryjunkietv.com, our website. You can sign up and join the fun. And we'd like to hear some comments or some opinions, or if you have any questions for us and you'd like us to answer, please do that. Please, we love hearing from you. We like getting feedback, knowing exactly how you think the show is going and what you would like to learn. And you know, because this woman is full of knowledge. Me, however, well, that's another story.
Oh, Pam, you're keeping me in stitches.
Oh, I know.
I was waiting all day to use that.
Oh, I know you were. I know. The name of the show is keeping us in stitches.
All right, so let's show them a prize.
Parody.
When you sign up online for our newsletter, you will have the opportunity to win this book called Peyote Stitch.
I'm doing my Vanna White.
Yes, and what else are they getting?
You're going to get a $10 gift certificate to Bead Gallery, so you can purchase seed beads.
So you can try out the stitch yourself.
Exactly. And once you do go into the Bead Gallery, you'll be able to see all these wonderful examples.
Yep, and so that way you can try out these stitches.
Exactly.
All right, should we start with the demo?
I would love to see you start the demo.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're going to be showing you two different things. So I'm focusing here on just getting you started. These are Delica beads, and I like to use those when I'm learning because they are a bead that has a straight edge and square ends, as opposed to be a rounded bead. And the reason I choose that is because it makes it really easy to fit the beads together in terms of peyote stitch. I'm using a little bit of beading thread, and you can use any beading thread that you're comfortable with. And I'm just cutting that. And then I'm going to use a needle. And so the needle is a size 12 needle. However, again, you can use any needle you're comfortable with. And so these have a kind of a small hole. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so the most difficult part about peyote stitch is actually starting it. So what I'm going to do is pick up one bead, and I'm going to bring it down to the other end, leaving a short tail, and I'm going to go back through the bead. Now what happens when I do this, the thread will show because I'm going right around the bead. This is called a stop bead, and this doesn't actually count when we are sewing. And so in terms of how to do peyote stitch, when you pick up a number of beads, so I'm going to pick up an even number of beads. So 1, 2, 3, I'll pick up 6, 4, 5,
Just to
6.
let you know, the stop bead is there so that you have better control over the stitch.
Actually, it's so the beads don't fall off.
Right, but you also have better control, at least I do. I
Yeah.
always use the stop bead because I do not have nimble fingers like you.
All right, so basically, whatever number of beads that you add onto your needle, that width is the width that your piece is going to be. So for example, Pam's bracelet here, you know, was maybe 10 beads wide, and this one is 6 beads wide. So that sets the width of your piece. So I'm going to bring those down to my stop bead, and as you can see, the beads don't fall off because the stop bead is there. Then what I like to do is pinch the beads so they don't move, and I'm going to pick up the first bead of my next row. And so what I'm going to do is, instead of going through the first bead, I'm actually going to go through the second bead. And what happens when I do that, that bead sits side by side with the first bead in the row. It makes like a little T shape. So then I will pick up the next bead, and again, skip a bead and go through the next. So what happens is there's going to be a little pattern, and the pattern is pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next. And just trying to get it through.
You want my Mr. Magoo glasses?
No, I can see just fine.
That's what they all say.
Yep, there we go. Sometimes when you're demonstrating it, it just can move a little bit more than you want.
That's what I'm talking about, see?
All right, so now I pick up another one, skip a bead, and go through the next. Now, one of the things that you need to know is that once you get to the stop bead doesn't count. So what I've created is a series of 2 and then 1 and 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1. When I get to the stop bead, I can take that off. I don't need that anymore because I've held on the beads for that whole section. So now I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to pick up a bead, and now what happens by this next stitch, the ones that you want to go through are actually sticking out already.
Which makes it a lot easier
Yes.
to know where you are.
So starting the stitch is actually the most complicated part.
That's really true.
Yep. And so once you get going, it's
And the wonderful thing about it also is that you can put your stitching down and know exactly where you can pick up.
where you left off.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about doing peyote
Yeah.
is that you can find it right away.
So basically, I'm just picking up beads and sewing through the next. When I get to the end of the row, I personally like to flip it over because I like to always be sewing in the same direction. So I like to sew towards myself. You'll find that there's a way that you like to hold it, and you'll probably always sew it that way. So here we go, and already, you know, I've created a little bit of a band that I could use for a bracelet or for anything that I want to make.
See, I think it sews up quickly, personally.
Yeah, because I'm using these nice big beads.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to a smaller sample so you can get an idea of how we can make a beaded bead. So let me finish.
And also the difference in how it looks.
Yep.
It's amazing. It looks like a different stitch. I think that's the wonderful thing about peyote. It's just so flexible. There's so many different things you can do with it.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I need the line back.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to take these and put these away. So I'll just put those out of the way. Put them over
do you
here.
need?
Oh, just that's good. All right. So now what I'm going to do is move to a smaller bead, and we're going to create a beaded bead, and I will show you what that looks like. All right. So for this beaded bead, we're going to be making something like this. And so if you look on this bracelet, these are actually little beaded beads made with peyote stitch. Yep. And so what we can do is, if you see these little gold beads on the end, they almost look like little beads or caps on the bead. Those are built right into this project. And then afterwards, I just strung them to make this pretty bracelet. So to do that, we're using a delicate bead, and this is a regular size delicate bead, which is equivalent to a size 11 seed bead. And this is a charlotte. And a charlotte is a seed bead that has one cut side to it. And I'll take that. So what I'm going to do is show you how to start that, because the start, again, is the most difficult part to see. And so I'll show you how that's done. All right, so I just have a short piece of line. I don't need that much. And I'm going to start by putting a stop bead on. And so I'll use one of my charlottes as my stop bead. And so in this, it may be a little bit more difficult to see because I'm using the small, tiny beads. So I will also put a little write-up on how to do this on our website. So this is what I call my 8 and 8 bead. So basically, I pick up a charlotte, and then I'm going to pick up 8 seed beads. 8. All right, I got 8 beads on there.
She's counting to herself.
And then, I know I'm a big counter. I do count all the time. And then I'm going to pick up another charlotte. And so this is going to be what my bead looks like. So it's 8 of the colored beads in the middle. Then I'm going to start with my peyote. So I'm picking up a charlotte because that's the first bead to match the one that's there already. And I'm going to go through the second bead, which is the first of the colored beads. And I'm going to pull that tight. And now sometimes when you're using these small beads, you actually have to position them to make that T shape, because those beads are not exactly square the way that the big delicate beads we used on the first demo were.
See what I mean by nimble fingers?
All right, so then I pick up another bead, and I'm going to skip a bead and go through the next. Okay, so there it's sitting side by side. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, and go through the next. Okay, and I know this can be difficult to see. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, and go through the next. Pick up a bead, and then go through the last charlotte, but not the stop bead. All right, so now we've created the next row. So I'm going to pull off my stop bead because I don't need that anymore. And it looks like this. So it's 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1, etc. All right,
Yeah.
is that looking good?
Yeah. Oh, they're
Okay,
able
good.
to see it. That's
Now,
great.
through the magic of television.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to say that too. All right.
Wow, look how quick you are.
Oh my goodness, look at what I made. So I'm not going to make everybody watch me make that. Now the reason I call it my 8 and 8 bead is because there's 8 beads across when I strung it of those blue beads.
Right.
But then when I sewed back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, if I just count on the ends here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I have 8 silver beads on one side and 8 silver beads on the other. So by having that amount, it makes the perfect size bead.
Absolutely.
Okay?
God forbid it be uneven.
All right, now, because it's even count peyote,
Yeah.
what happens that's really cool is when I roll this together and I put my beads, they fit together like a zipper, just like you were mentioning before. So those fit together, and now I can sew them together.
Right, in order to make the bead.
Yes, in order to make the bead that we're going to string.
You have to zip it up.
Exactly. So the important thing about this is that you don't add any beads, all right?
Right.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to sew directly across. I'm coming out of this silver bead on this side, and I'm going to go right across. And now I've sewed together the 2 silver beads.
Right.
Then the next bead in a row is the one sticking out, which is going to be the first blue one.
Which is on the...
It doesn't matter which side.
It doesn't matter which side it's on.
No.
It's the one that's sticking out.
Right, and I'm basically going to the next, each bead that's sticking up. So it goes 1 bead from one side, 1 bead on the other side. And it's okay if you crush your bead in your fingers. That's fine.
Yeah, because you can always fix it later.
Yep. And so basically, just make sure that thread doesn't catch on anything. and sew across the other side, like that. And I know it's a little painful to watch, but it must be done. All right, so there we go.
It's amazing.
And don't forget that once you get to your last blue bead, you still have to sew across to the silver. Yeah.
Right.
Because even though it doesn't look like it's sticking out that much, it really is.
Yes. I've done
Okay,
that.
so now what happens is, now that it's all sewn together, it rolls and you can't even tell where it's stitched.
No.
See that? All right, and so then the last thing I'm going to do is take these two pieces and I'm going to knot them. So I'm doing 2 knots.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'm going to do is basically take these threads and just sew them back through the piece so that I can cut it off. So I'm just going through one bead to the next to get it away from the knot, because I never like to cut where the knot is. If you cut right next to the knot's not going to hold it.
Right. And you also want to reinforce the stitch as well.
Yes. Now in this case, because it's a beaded bead, there's not going to be a lot of stress placed on these.
No.
So you don't have to worry about it that much. The other thing that a lot of people do is they don't actually put knots in their peyote work. They just basically sew back and forth to create kind of a tangle between the beads.
Right.
So I'll take the little cutters for that.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, there are people that I notice, like in their beadwork, they do not make knots. What they do is they weave the ends.
Yep, they just weave them in.
Just weave them in.
Yep.
I don't know. I think I'd be afraid of that coming out.
Yeah, I don't think it will. Most pieces don't break because of the knot. They'll break because of other reasons, because there's a sharp bead or whatever.
Or it gets caught on something.
Exactly.
Which can occur.
Yep.
All right. But it's very easily fixed, too.
So now I'm just sewing away my knots, and I'm not going to really, sew this too much. It doesn't really matter.
No.
All right, and so now what happens is, let
me just explain. Basically what Genevieve just did is she made knots. And when you have the knot at the end, you don't want to just leave it like that. You want to put either both strings, both parts of the knot, and sew them back in. And that way it comes out.
Yep.
Just like that.
That's a cute little bead.
It's really cute.
And so now you can see it's just the same as the ones that are on here. And you can just string it up.
And how many did you make?
On this bracelet, I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
5.
I made 5 on this bracelet, and I just strung it with a few other little beads.
Yeah.
And it makes a really pretty.
It's very pretty.
Bracelet that's
very,
a little out of the ordinary.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And all you have to do is just measure your wrist, the wrist you're using, and that's how you can determine how many beads you need to use.
So on this project, this is another example of beaded beads. So these beads are much longer.
Yeah.
But it's basically the same technique. I just used
a smaller bead.
Bigger beads, and I created different patterns in it.
Right.
And so these beads are much longer, and I used those to...
Is that a Charlotte that's inside?
Nope, this is an 11 and triangles and 8 and...
Oh, that's the triangles.
Yep, and I also used a beaded bead for the clasp on this when I made that. So just to show you that you can do different kinds of...
The diversity of this stitch is incredible. It really is.
Yep, and then these ones are little beaded beads that have been decorated with little drops and 15s.
Yeah, they look like my hair, the spikes.
So those are fun little beaded beads. And then on this piece right here, you can see these are little beaded beads with a little bit of different colors in them. So there are lots of different uses for beaded beads using peyote stitch.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You can also make earrings.
You can make anything.
Yeah.
Yep, you can see we have all kinds of
So
jewelry.
that's basically it.
Yep.
That's it about the peyote stitch. We're going to have the demonstration on our website, which is jewelryjunkietv.com, and also probably a picture of the piece itself, the finished piece.
Yes, I'll put a little primer on how to make the beads.
Okay.
And so that way you can, if you know, you need any review on this, you can learn how to do that stitch.
Okay, and don't forget our raffle again is the Peyote Stitch beading projects. A lot of exciting stitches in here. Peyote is the base, but then there are, like the Cellini spiral is another stitch.
That's actually peyote. That's in a tube shape.
Right.
Yep. So there's basically all different ways that you can use peyote stitch.
Right. So, to recap, peyote stitch, flat, tubular, or round.
Or freeform.
Or freeform. And that's basically it. Are we going to have these samples as well on the website? What do you think?
Probably not all of them.
Probably not. So you will have to go and visit the Bead Gallery. This is where everything is shown. And you'll be able to meet a lot of the people that, like myself, that do stitching at the Bead Gallery. So thank you very much. We appreciate you coming and watching us. And we hope that to see you again next month on Jewelry Junkie TV.
Bye.
Happy beading.
Bead Gallery loves a jewelry junkie. Bead Gallery is located at 100 North Broadway in tax-free Salem, New Hampshire. Bead Gallery offers more than 300 classes and all the beading supplies you need to make beautiful jewelry.
Artisan's Accomplice is proud to sponsor Jewelry Junkie. Artisan's Accomplice is a complete website system designed for jewelers and crafters. Create your own website with all the features you need to display and sell your products online. Try it out at artisansaccomplice.com.